Hi, welcome back to Bark and Brittle for Lynn's Test Kitchen. Today we're going to be testing a recipe that someone sent to me, and it's for 3-ingredient peanut butter cookies. And there's literally just 3 ingredients, unless you decide to throw some add-ins. But we're going to test it and see how it comes out. It's a really simple recipe. In fact, I don't even have it in front of me. It's 1 cup of peanut butter, 1 cup of sugar, and 1 egg. So it's pretty easy to memorize. You cook it on 350 for about 10 minutes. So we're going to go through the process. I actually have everything measured out. So I have a cup of peanut butter, and I have 1 cup of sugar, and then 1 large egg. Typically in baking, if they just say an egg, you're always going to use a large egg, unless they specify. So we're going to get started, and I have the oven preheating behind us, and we're going to see how this comes out. So I'm actually going to whip this up by hand today. I'll let you know if it's worth it. Maybe it's going to be a lot of work. It may be easier to pull out a mixer, but I don't feel like it, and the recipe didn't specify. So we have our bowl here with 1 cup of peanut butter, and I'm going to add to that our 1 cup of sugar. The one thing I would personally change right off the bat, I would add a pinch of salt, but it doesn't ask for it, so we're not going to. So we're going to add our 1 egg. And then I'm just going to grab a wooden spoon and start mixing this by hand. I'll let you know if you should use a mixer or not. So in the recipe, there was some talk about using creamy peanut butter versus crunchy peanut butter. And in this particular recipe, there's recipes for this all over, but in this particular one, she did say do not use crunchy peanut butter, that it doesn't really come together very well. So we're using smooth. She did not say anything about natural peanut butter versus regular peanut butter. Now, there's kind of 3 different kinds of peanut butter. You have your standard peanut butter that has sugar and everything added to it. Then you have your natural peanut butter, which still has some oil added to it. Those are like your Skippy and your Jif peanut butters, and that's actually what I'm using here. And they just hold together better, and it doesn't separate. So then you have your fully natural peanut butter, which may just have some salt in it, and those ones separate a lot. Your oil separates out from the nuts. So I didn't use that, and I'm going to guess that would probably be a problem in this recipe, but I can't swear to that. She did not address that. I think I may have seen that in other recipes. This actually came together pretty easily. It's very thick, but it's pretty smooth. I'm just going to go for another minute to make sure all that sugar is incorporated in here. We don't get any really sweet spots. Now you could, at this point, if you wanted, throw in a splash of vanilla or some chocolate chips. Oops, sorry about the noise there. You could even throw in some crushed peanuts now at this point because it's already come together. So if you do want it crunchy, you could throw in some nuts, and that would be pretty good. All right, I'm going to say that that's together. So I have 2 baking sheets set up here with parchment paper on them, and the recipe said to divide into 1 tablespoon scoops, and then she said don't leave them in mounds because they won't spread, and so you're going to press them down with a fork. So have a scoop here. And I never really know if these are a tablespoon or what they are, but I'm going to assume this is a tablespoon, and I think it's pretty standard. So we're going to start with 1 sheet, and I'm just going to, I like to use the scoop because they're always even. You get all the same size cookies, so I like to use that. So we're going to do 12 on this sheet. So they're not going to spread a lot because there's no butter in this recipe, so that's why we have to press them down. So once we do, they won't spread a ton, so they should not run into each other. They're mostly going to stay exactly as we set them after we press them down. We're just going to take the tines of your fork, and there's a lot of oil in here because of the peanut butter, so they should not stick, but if you found that they were sticking at all, you could always dip your fork in some sugar. And I don't want to add any extra sugar to the recipe, but you could sprinkle some coarse sugar over the top if you like that, or you could roll them in sugar before you press them down. Okay, so we have them all put out on the sheet pan. I got about 20 cookies out of this. They might be a little big, maybe they're a little bit more than a tablespoon. So the recipe says to cook them for 10 minutes. Since mine may be a little big, I'll cook them for 10 minutes, check them. It says until golden brown. It's very difficult to check golden brown when you're cooking something that's already brown, but we should be able to see if the edges start getting some color on them, and that would be the point that we would want to pull them out. So I'm going to get them in the oven, and then I will see you guys again in about 10 minutes. All right, it has been 13 minutes. I took them out of the oven. I let them go for a few minutes longer because, like I said, these might be a little bit bigger, plus my oven is really big, and so sometimes it takes a little longer to cook in there. They didn't really get any kind of dark golden brown, but I don't know, they smell delicious and they look done. Now the recipe was very specific, saying that they have to be left to cool on the sheet for a few minutes because they're super fragile. And then you have to move them with a wide spatula and then let them cool completely on a baking rack, so you can't taste them yet. So I'm just going to stand here and smell them, which, if you love peanut butter, which I love peanut butter, they smell really good. So just going to wait it out. It's 11:26. They don't seem very fragile, but I imagine they could come apart pretty easily at this point if you're not careful. Oh my gosh, they do smell very good. I know, I keep saying that. That's because they smell very good. Okay, so I'm thinking we should try one while they are warm. And maybe I'll come back and try one when they're cool. But I'll definitely put what I think in the description below. Or the link will be in the description below, along with any extra directions or anything that I thought of, or anything that maybe could improve it. Well, we don't know. It may not need improving. It may be perfect as it is. So here we go. It's still pretty warm. It still smells good. All right. Well, for me, it's very sweet. I don't eat a lot of sugar anymore, but it tastes really good. And for a normal cookie, it's probably no sweeter than a normal cookie, and it actually holds together pretty well. It's still a little bit wet in the center, but that may just be either my oven or that I made them a little bit too big. But if you like a soft cookie, this is actually pretty good. The only thing I'm going to say at this point I would probably change, well, I already said I would put a little salt in it, which would definitely help with the sweet factor. I think I'd mix it with a mixer, as you can still sort of feel the grains of sugar crunching in your teeth, and that's probably because there's no butter or anything, and so it didn't really have time mixing it by hand like that for the sugar to really break down. So if you mix it with a mixer, it may encourage the sugar to break down more because there's not a lot of liquid in it. That one egg was just not enough liquid to really dissolve the sugar. So I would say probably mix it with a mixer and give it a couple more minutes. You can't overmix this because there's no flour in it, so you're not in danger of overmixing it, so that's not going to matter. But for a super quick 3-ingredient cookie that you don't need a recipe for, 1 cup peanut butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 egg, and put it in the oven at 350 for, I'll say 10 to 12 minutes. I mean, you really can't go wrong. So I would say this is definitely something I would keep and use anytime I'm in a pinch, and especially if you are gluten intolerant, if you have any issues with wheat, this would be a fantastic option for you. So thank you for joining me again today. Again, all the link to the website, any instructions or anything will be put in the description below. And please like and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you next time.